Farm4Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm4Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm4Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit Podcast. We got a virtual interview today, Dave.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a virtual interview that you've known all your life. He's out from where you're from.
He is.
At least for today while he's doing his recording. And I only wish we were recording the stories that happened before we turned on air. But I think for the best of all of us, we're just going to make the listeners wonder.
I was waiting for you to I was waiting for you to open up and say, "This is Tanner," and then we'll wait for Corey because he's not here right now. You'd hear this like, "What's your car sound like?"
he's yelling from the other room.
He's yelling from the other room. He's a coming.
I think that's really funny. We should you've reached Corey's voicemail. I'm sorry, I'm unavailable. Would you please leave your message? Yes, we could totally do that. But we're kind of on a trend of some episodes here to expand for our listeners the opportunity to increase revenue. We know that commodity prices have been better. We know that margins have been better. So we're looking to provide value in a lot of different creative avenues for us to potentially generate some extra revenue.
So we're going to Montana.
We're headed, well, it's at least where he's hanging out right now, and we're going to learn about Landtrust. And honestly, when we first connected with Landtrust, I was like, this is probably something Dave uses for his auctions, and they just throw money into there for something else. But it's not. And I'm excited to meet Nic and learn about this. So welcome to the podcast, Nic.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners, and then we'll dive into what Landtrust is after that.
Sure. So, my name is Nic DeCastro. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Landtrust. We are a company, not a nonprofit. So, as you probably alluded to there, we are not a traditional conservation easement organization. Landtrust is simply a brand name. So, when I founded the company in 2019, I took the two most important words that I believe would make the company successful, which is land. We're a private lands company. We're staunchly pro-private land ownership, and trust, like good old-fashioned trust. Farm and ranch communities, they've had a lot of charlatans come into town and over the years and decades, and we knew that it would take a lot of trust to build what we're building here, and both on both sides of our marketplace. So. That's how we came up with the name. But yeah, we're based here in Bozeman, Montana. We are in I think we have land in 42 states now, about 1.5 million acres. Hopefully get to about 2 million by the end of the year. We have people who love the outdoors in all 50 states who use Landtrust.
That is exciting, and I figured out where Corey went because we discovered him. He had to go quick fire up the lawnmower because every time we record, somebody mows their yard, and somebody wasn't, so Corey felt it was necessary.
So all the podcast equipment is ran off of a lawnmower generator. That's the secret to the show.
It's absolutely the success. But Nic, I want to learn more about little Nic. When you were younger, did you grow up as a farm kid?
No, gosh, I wish I could say I did. Everyone here in Montana will hate when I say it, but I was born in Southern California. I grew up at the beach. I grew up hunting and fishing, surfing, all that fun stuff down in Southern California through high school, and then I went to school on the East Coast, and I was a traveling sales guy, so I went all over the country. I was in digital advertising stuff, so I was kind of early in the social media marketing and influencer space before basically getting up here. So I lived in Boston, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, LA, Boulder, then Bozeman.
I don't think I pictured him as a surfer boy.
It's been a long time. I wouldn't lay claim to it now. It's been over half my life ago. So
but it's kind of neat to meet someone who was in on the early social influencing side of things, also getting some digital marketing put together. But that's not what he's here for today. So Landtrust, it is a company that is able to potentially provide our listeners with added revenue sources?
Yeah. So, for your listeners, an easy way to think about us, we're a marketplace. So think about us like Airbnb or VRBO, but for getting, access to private land to hunt, fish, camp, have cool farm and ranch experiences, et cetera. So for your listeners, we partner with landowners. So we don't sell anything to landowners. We're a business partner. We build the platform, do the marketing. You guys own the land. And so we work with almost exclusively multi-generation farm and ranch families that are owner-operators who are looking to generate some additional income that supplements their operations. It's not disruptive, right? So, yeah, we have a lot of farmers and ranchers all over the country that say, hey, we've got ground. We have, outdoor recreation opportunities on our ground. And, we'd like to kind of host people on our own terms and generate some extra income. So whether it be hunting or fishing, if you got ponds or rivers or whatever, or camping or even farm and ranch experiences, landowners all over the country are using Landtrust now to directly participate in the market and host people on their place. Again, for whatever activities they choose, with whatever rules, for whatever prices, whatever dates. Again, feels a lot like an Airbnb or a VRBO, where you have this asset that isn't being used, and you're willing to host people and generate some income from it.
I gotta assume that there's a lot of things you can recreate, but I gotta assume hunting is the largest of the portfolio.
Yeah. So look, when I started the company, I started here in Bozeman in 2019. Actually, July 1st, so it just crossed 5 years for myself. I started based on hunting. As you know, Dave, like Montana's got a ton of public land, which is not the case for a lot of states, and that's awesome. But you also find yourself looking at a bunch of private land that you'd love to get out on. And of course, there's door knocking and all that, as anyone who hunts knows. But, I think that I found myself wanting to get out on ground and connect the dots with these farmers and ranchers. And I was happy to pay them for the opportunity to go out and do it. It costs a lot of money, as you guys know, to actually run operations, and it is a business. And so, I found myself being like, I'm happy to pay you for the opportunity to go out and just have access, right? It's do it yourself. This is not guided. It's not outfitted. It's nothing like that. It's literally just what used to be called trespass fees. We're just making it a little bit more modern. So, it started with hunting. Hunting is definitely like the biggest category for us, but fishing is quickly approaching. And then, what we call farm and ranch experiences. So that could be stuff like brandings, calving. We're getting down into the South, like where we got a lot of stuff in Louisiana that's coming online right now. And it could be, crawfish tours or harvest or all sorts of stuff. Like I like to tell our producers, your daily chores are interesting to people who didn't grow up on farms and ranches.
No way.
And, yeah, it's true.
Get them in a pig barn.
Yeah. There you go. So, look, I started this company. I had 0 children. I have 3 children now. And, they're all at that age. My wife's constantly looking for things to do with the kids. And, what better to do than go connect with people in your community, or if you're traveling in other places, to go and kind of see how your food's grown and connect with cool families and support them. So that's kind of the farm and ranch side of the business. We're growing like the experiences. But hunting, certainly, Dave, is where we started. It's still our strongest vertical. But yeah.
So when you do that, I've worked for a couple companies that basically do hunting leases. Corey and I were just talking about hunting leases on a farm that we were looking at buying. And what do you put that out there at a certain price, or do you auction it? I know there's another company out there that does it on a kind of a sealed bid auction, and it goes for so long, and then they say, "Who'll give me $25 an acre, for hunting rights for this?" And some of those are specific dates, and then some of those are annual leases, and depends. They get exclusive rights.
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, before we came along, the analog is really kind of similar. So think short-term rental.
Yep.
Right? Again, like an Airbnb, like a VRBO. So before those platforms existed, if you want to do this, it was like a lease, like an annual lease.
Yeah.
And so leases are still very prevalent. We're not doing annual leases. Our platform can do them. You can, as a landowner, say, hey, I'm willing to offer, look at Nebraska. Nebraska has a 9-day rifle season.
Yeah, correct.
Effectively, it's an annual lease for the season. But it's really about not a per acre price. It's saying, hey, look, I own some ground. I've got some turkeys, some whitetail, some upland birds, whatever it might be, right? And it's worth to me to host 2 to 5 people out here for the week. I don't know, $2,000. And so it's really just up to the landowner. The landowner chooses all the pricing, all the rules, all that stuff. So we're not doing leases. Leases are more of a traditional real estate play where they'll have agents and, it's a different financial model too. So for us, we're simply a platform. We make a commission on bookings. So it's an 80-20 split. Landowners keep 80%. We get 20. We charge a booking fee on the guest side too. And so, and we do obviously insurances, all that kind of stuff as well. So it's definitely a different model. And I think for landowners, it allows them a lot more flexibility. I can tell you with the producers, especially owner operators, especially, I feel like when we got into Kansas, because we went to Kansas after Montana, and everyone knows you can make a bunch of money if you have big whitetail. And so they said, hey, we did the annual lease stuff for a while, and yeah, you get a big check, but it was a headache because you had guys who wrote you a big check, and, you know, right or wrong, they said, they started calling, I heard stories of people calling people's farmhands, telling them to like farm differently because, you know, they're coming out to hunt that year. And like, that's not what this is. You know, we're an actual production ag operation. Mm-hmm. You just get access to this place. So I think our producers like using Landtrust because it's ultimately flexible. They can still let their friends and family hunt. They can hunt themselves or use the property from recreation. They let their friends, family, neighbors, business partners use the place and then monetize whatever isn't being used, right? And that's something that flexibility and control that you don't have when you lease. When you lease, you sell a property right. And so, you know, if you're leasing out hunting, like, okay, you're going to get the check, but you did just sell your property rights away for that thing for whatever, a year or, you know, however long that period is. So it really does keep a landowner a lot more in control.
So, Nick, I got to ask, you guys might not know this, but there are, he probably knows the number, millions of acres of public ground that people can't access. The reason they can't is because there's a rule right now. So if it's diagonally connected to the other ground, can you diagonally cross a fence to get
jump.
If you jump and don't touch it right now? There's been people that have been in lawsuits on this over and over again, and there's this huge, like, it's up to Supreme Court now, I think, right now, that I've been following along of can we diagonally cross to access that public land? It makes me think you got a whole new vertical here. I didn't even want to hunt your ground. All I want to do is walk across it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's access, right? So one way or the other, and we have. Yeah, Dave, you've been up here to Bozeman quite a bit. Like, we have, you know, on the backside of the M right here in the Bridgers, we have a landowner that's been there 115 years, and they got 165 acres, but it's tucked in back, you know, on the backside of that where the M is. And a lot of people go and they book that, and then they have access to the public right behind it. You'd have to hike 4 miles as the crow flies from Bridger Bowl. Yeah. And a lot of elk get killed over there. So, yeah, you're right. People do use it like that. Now, it's a very Western use case. That's a very Western use case. Obviously, as we all know, like, most of the country doesn't have a lot of public land. But certainly people do access using Landtrust as well.
Are you guys handling the booking process for the landowner then? Like, completely, like, so they say, I want to rent it for this, or not rent it, or lease it, whatever you call it, for this per day or whatever it is, and you guys handle it. That's nice.
Yeah, so, you know, for a landowner's perspective, yeah, we handle all of that. So our team, because we built ourselves around production ag owner-operators, there's a lot of types of landowners out there, and we tried a bunch of them, and we just landed on that production ag landowner. But we know they're busy people. We have a team that helps you build your, you know, profile, your listing out, and your different packages. Yep. So we'll do all the heavy lift. You'll look at it before. We'll onboard you, show you how to use it. But yeah, we do ID verification of all of our guests. So before they could ever send a booking request to you, they've, you know, taken a picture of their driver's license, whatever, some sort of government ID. Mm-hmm. We verify who they are. They pay with a credit card up front. That all happens through our platform. And at the end of the trip, we direct deposit to your bank account. So literally you never touch money. You don't do any of that stuff. We handle all of it. We do insurance. We have a general liability policy. We've got, we offer trip insurance to the guests. So if they have to cancel for some reason, like they can purchase trip insurance, kind of like a flight. Yeah. We have property protection. We have participant insurance. So if someone steps in a badger hole, breaks their leg, you know, you're not liable. So we take a lot of that and we package it all into this.
Do you have any kind of way to, like, I'm thinking, like, awesome, I want to go to your website. I know some spots that I want to go. But then I think, like, fishing. I don't know fishing as well, Corey. So I'm like, ooh, let's go. I like rainbow trout. I want to go rainbow trout. I mean, I think I know where to go, but I don't really know where to go. Do you guys give, like, a score to it? Like, well, you like VRBOs, like, if I want the best, like a 5-star or whatever, they will say, you need to go book it over here. Do you have, like,
you need a guide?
We need 5-star rating for hunting, though. Like, this one's a score 100. This one's only score 95, you know? I mean, do you have something like that?
Well, we have ratings. So every trip is rated. And so only people that actually book and go on trips can rate, just like these other platforms, like you said, VRBO or Airbnb. So, hey, this is a 5-star, you know, fly fishing property. And we have, Dave, when you come back out, we've got a handful of places along the Gallatin here in town that are phenomenal. But yeah, you could read all the ratings of everyone else who's been out there and just kind of make that decision for yourself. And for guests too, for landowners, they can go and see ratings of the guests who are making inquiries with their properties. I think that's the other interesting thing too, especially for landowners to understand, is this is not like a hotel where someone just books your place and you find out afterwards. Everything is a request. You can say no to anybody you want for any reasons you want. So the way it will come in is someone can reach out to you as a guest and say, hey, I'm interested. If I was Dave, I'm interested in potentially coming out and fishing for 2 days with my family or whatever. And as a landowner, you get a text message saying, hey, Dave wants to come out, and it's $550 for this booking.
But he needs a four-wheeler because his dad's handicapped. Do you have a four-wheeler?
No, they'd be saying, no, it's a frickin' Whitaker. that kid trespassed on our land when he was a kid.
So as a landowner, you could talk, and we encourage, a lot of these other platforms don't want you to connect with each other outside the platform. A lot of our landowners just say, hey, give me a call, I'm out on the combine or whatever, right? Just, let's just talk to each other, and I'll feel you out, and feels good, I'll accept. But you can say no as a landowner to anything. So people can't just book your place. Everything is a request. You always have the opportunity to say no. And I think that's really important. We're all about control. We know, I didn't come from ag. And when I started this, I thought that money would be the biggest motivator. And I found universally with the production ag landowner, control is number one. It's like they want to control their way of life, their business, their property rights, all that stuff. And yeah, money's important, but control is really number one. So we always keep our landowners 100% in control. They can offer whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want.
There's another thing out west that we don't have nearly as much in Iowa. It's block management. And so you get overrun with antelope or overrun with elk, and there's just too many. I remember John Claude Van Damme bought down near Ennis, Montana, said, I'm not going to let anybody hunt here. And like the next year, the Montana Fish Wildlife was like, guy, you need to harvest some elk because there's so many. So as people buy this ground, there is government-run places that is block management where they manage the sign in and sign out. And there's big orange signs that you can hunt there, and they have a way to do it, but they don't necessarily get the control that you're giving them. You're giving them more control to say, nope, my family's hunting this weekend, screw you guys. Yep. Where block management says everybody gets the same rights. If you open it up, everybody gets the same rights, and you don't necessarily get the control that you're offering. So you're like, yeah, block management, but fancy.
We don't have that in block management. We have depredation tags.
Yeah.
That you can do.
Yeah, depredation tags are a little bit, they operate a little differently. But yeah, block management, and different states have it, like Kansas has WEHA, walk-in hunting access, and there's, state programs. Look, block management's great. We have to be intellectually honest with ourselves. If you're for property rights, you're for any option a landowner has that they get to choose. And so I'm all for block management. So block management essentially is the state paying landowners to allow hunting access.
Yep.
That's great. I'm for it. So I want a landowner to be able to have any option, whether that's nobody gets to hunt my place, some people do, everybody does, whatever, I don't care. So that's because I'm for property rights. And I killed my antelope doe 2 years ago on a block management property. So all those state programs are great. And I think access is a spectrum from federal public lands, which is pretty much anybody, anytime, anywhere for anything, to, basically what we do, which is private land. And, landowner says, hey, we're willing to allow people to do this, and it's cost us much money. So yeah, I think there's room for all of it, and it's all great from my perspective.
So Nick, you may or may not know this yet, but so I sell farmland in Iowa, and we're always looking for ways. Of course, we're the Farm4Profit Podcast. We're trying to find ways to be more profitable. And when we think of this, we're thinking of maybe monetizing. Guys, help me out here, but I think non-agriculture acres is how we could use your program to monetize.
Even ag acres, like even after you harvest a field of corn, people want to come in and
pheasant hunt,
goose, duck, pheasants, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we have a couple places in Iowa that do leases more traditionally, but sounds like I need to be a Landtrust agent for Iowa, and then we rent out small little vacations. Let's go goose hunting on your wetland.
I'm going to tell you right now, it was wrote down here. I see the value in this in several ways, but the biggest one is the pain in the butt that you guys are handling for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hunter, and we used to let a lot of people just come out and hunt. They'd stop, ask for permission. Yeah, go out. There's plenty of deer. They're eating the crops. Go ahead. Well, then they're entitled. A lot of them, I'm not all of them, but a couple give them all a bad name, that they just keep coming back, and then they don't ask for permission. And then all of a sudden, the next person you gave permission to said, well, I'm down here, someone else is hunting, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And so we've gotten to the point where we just go, nope, I hunt it with 3 or 4 of my friends and family, and that's it.
And the cool part is you guys have liability coverage. You're making me think back to a story. So I bought our first house in Iowa, and there was ground behind it, and that I owned or whatever right with it. And like you said, they just assumed that they still could come there this year, and they showed up, and I stopped them. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they're like, well, we hunt this every year. It's Wendell's property. I'm like, no, I bought it from Wendell. Wendell doesn't own it anymore. I do, and I'm going to hunt it. And the next day, my 500-gallon fuel tank was empty.
Oh.
Wow.
So I lost a little diesel that day, and I confronted them about it, and they're like, whatever. And they have a tank in the back of their truck. I'm like, really? Oh, it was full yesterday. Like, you sons of bucks. I mean, they filled up.
Yeah, but the risk is big, too, not just on that, but my grandpa always was worried when he gave permission that, someone
breaks a leg.
Yeah, breaks a leg, accidentally shoots someone or whatever, that's on the landowner.
Yeah. So so that was like the biggest thing to solve for when I started this company, right? We launched the website October 2nd of 2019. The website was ready to go in September, but October 2nd is when the insurance policies kicked in. Oof. So, insurance is a huge deal. And I think it's important for your audience specifically to note that in 32 or 34 of the top ag producing states in the U.S., at the state level, they have some flavor of agritourism liability limitation. So the state really wants to incentivize farms and ranches to participate in all this is basically ag tourism, right? I know ag tourism as a word can conjure up like, I don't know, hay mazes and stuff like that, which nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying a lot of farmers and ranchers are like, well, I don't have a you-pick apple orchard, Ag tourism is anything, could be hunting, fishing, horseback riding, whatever, any of these activities on ag ground. And so a lot of these states have at the state level, ag, liability limitations. So if you're participating in these activities, and someone does step in a gopher hole, break their leg or whatever, they're limiting you from liability. Now there's little things you got to do. We actually help our landowners. We'll produce the signage because a lot of states have language around, hey, you have to have kind of like a workers' comp where you have to put it in the break room or whatever. So they'll have signage requirements we help with as well. But a lot of states protect these ag producers. Iowa is certainly one of those states. At the state level. And then we carry a lot of different types of insurances as well.
So, Corey, you send me stuff all the time on X Maps. Mm-hmm. And so it used to be called Hunting GPS Maps. Originally started out in Bozeman, Montana, right where Nick's
Missoula.
From. It was. Yes, it was Missoula. And they're out of Bozeman now, though. Correct?
Yes, they are. They still have both offices, but yes.
And so they basically were, I want to know who owns the ground and where's the public ground. So as a hunter, I could find public ground. We realized it wasn't just for hunters. Everybody wanted to know, are you standing on the right spot? Hence the term on X. Are you on the right spot? Do you have like an app or anything you give your potential users of land that like, I rented a side-by-side out in Montana the other year, and they had like, here's the trails you can go on. They're already programmed into the GPS on the side-by-side. Do you have something like that in Landtrust software or something?
Yeah, so we actually partner with Onyx. We partner with HuntWise. And so for all of our properties, it's a good thing for our landowners to understand too, is when we build out your listing, we sit with you and we do full GPS maps of your property, and we'll do borders, we'll do no-go zones, we'll mark stands and trail cams. And
there's way more value out here.
Yeah, so we want to make this turnkey. So some of our landowners never meet their guests. A lot of our landowners love meeting the guests, but some are just busy and it's not their thing. We needed to build this so that the farmer or rancher who doesn't have time or want to meet a guest ever could use it. And so we built it like that. So, maps is a big piece of that. We'll go and build all those GPS maps, and then after, a landowner accepts a booking, we send that information. Like if you were to book a VRBO or an Airbnb, you get that confirmation email that has like, hey, here's your Wi-Fi password and your door code. Our version of that is like GPS maps and like arrival instructions. Like, hey, you drive 2.5 miles down the road at the red, barn, you make a right and whatever, right? And you have
here's the code to the gate.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we do all that stuff. So as a landowner, you only have to do it once when you set it up, and then every guest gets the same thing. And we can update it too for you. But yeah, all the GPS maps is HuntWise and Onyx Maps compatible.
Awesome. I didn't think you had it. I was just thinking it was a great idea, and then you actually already had it. That's awesome.
Yeah, we don't need to rebuild the wheel, right? Like those guys have, like everyone uses that stuff already, so we just build it and send it to you.
So what's a generic? That's hard because every property's different. Like what does a acre of timber in Iowa or Montana rent for the weekend or
is
per day.
Is this enough to be worth our time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say don't think about it on a per acre basis, and I know that is I know that's a little bit different, right?
Right.
Because everything is usually talked about on a per acre basis, and I guess we could go and do the math and like work it out for you.
Or even just an average user experience, like the average person on our platform spends $2,000.
But I imagine that's crazy.
Yeah, so
on
the average
lodging.
booking. Yeah, I was gonna say the average booking value we've seen hold very steady over the last 5 years is about $1,200 per booking.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like usually a day or two, maybe 2 days, 2.5 days on average. Average. You don't do half days, but so yeah, we've got some great ground in Iowa with some great big old deer, and our landowners are making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year, and our landowners who are really making money are up to $80,000 a year.
Wow,
that's a wage.
So do you have reps in Iowa already? Did I miss that?
We have landowner success managers. We have a handful of them. We've got one in Montana, one in Nebraska, one in North Dakota, one in Kansas. And so our Nebraska rep is single, unmarried, no children, which is great for us. We can run his ass all over the country. But he loves traveling, so he actually goes and services a lot of Iowa.
Okay.
And again, for the landowners listening, we don't sell you anything. When we say landowner success manager, that name is indicative, right? His whole job is to just make landowners successful because we only make money when you do. We don't sell you anything. So he'll come and meet with you, answer questions, take pictures of property, hang game cams, do GPS, all that stuff. So we don't have anyone in Iowa, but we have people adjacent to Iowa.
Yeah. That sounds like the job I would have been all over right out of
Me
college.
too, man. As a single dude.
Golly.
He's just out of college. Yeah, I mean, I would dream to just go look at a bunch of ground. I mean, anyone who loves to hunt or farm and ranch, look at a bunch of.
I think
ground
that's half the reason people get into real estate. I follow out in his country. Hall and Hall is huge in Fay Ranches, and a bunch of my friends that are real estate agents at Fay Ranches. They were really
awesome.
They were really outdoorsmen, is what they were, and now they've transferred it into we need to make money. So they became realtors, but they get to go out and they get to take awesome drone of like an elk herd, and so they can promote that person's property. It sounds like you're doing the same thing, just getting it all on a website for the future. I do it. I promote farmland, but it's not nearly as sexy as some mountainside with 10,000 acres.
So Nick, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, one, Greg Fay is awesome. He's here in town. And two, because we all like to look at new ground all the time, on Landtrust, if you create a profile, you can follow properties and think like Instagram for private land. So now we have what's called field notes. So if you start following properties, landowners will just be out in the field like, hey, there's a flock of turkeys or whatever. Like, you can now just follow properties and get updates directly from the landowners. Photos, text-based updates, all that stuff.
Huh.
So how you doing over there, Tanner?
Yeah. I've enjoyed listening.
Yeah.
I've kind of let you guys take the direction of this show, but I want to know how you make your money. How's Landtrust get paid?
80-20 split.
80-20 split plus booking fees.
Is it purely that?
That's it. Yeah. So we're a pure platform marketplace. So 80-20 split on the landowner side. The landowner gets 80, we get 20 on bookings as a commission, and then we charge a 15% booking fee to the guest side. We just rolled out in the last month. It's kind of soft launch still, but a premium subscription for the guests. So that's called Landtrust Plus, and that gets a handful of new product features. So one, new listings. We're putting new listings live all the time. So Landtrust Plus members get 7 days kind of early access to those. So to make inquiries, start connecting with those landowners and making bookings. So they get 7 days before everybody else. Field notes, which is, like I said, kind of like Instagram for private land. You get to follow as many as you want. You get instant updates. So when you get into season, we create a lot of this product because we want to use it. We've got properties that are 5 miles from the office, 2 miles from the office. And when that game camera picture hits, I want to know, right? And as soon as I see deer moving or whatever happening, I'm ready to book. And so that's why we created field notes. You can start following properties that you're interested in. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Water looks good. I just got an update from one of the Gallatin properties here today, and the river looks like it's at the perfect level.
It's just like, maybe you guys have been there, I don't know, ski cameras. So on the top of Bridger, on top of Big Sky, they have, what's the weather doing on the summit right now? We got to go skiing today, man. They just got this much powder. It's the same premise.
So instead of calling up your farmer buddy who owns the place, like, hey, you seen any deer? Like, no, you just, now that landowner's out on the combine, takes a picture with their cell phone, quick update, and like anyone who's following it gets to see it.
I'm trying to think.
So it's like marketing for themselves, right?
Yep.
But
I'm trying to think how you like, because scouting is huge, right? Especially like, and all of it. But like I remember like waterfowl hunting, like you had to know where those ducks and geese were landing. Like, here's my field, but they might be landing in the other one. Someone might come out for that experience.
Well, I'm thinking of a way to add value. If you're the landowner and you want to command a premium, you commit to providing the updates.
Well, I think you, Corey, you send me stuff from your combine all the time. Like, just saw this buck. I'm like, you son of a, you know.
Yeah, well, imagine that's literally that's exactly it, right? So now, if you're a Landtrust landowner, you post that, and you get a $2,000 booking for a week hunt for something.
200-inch deer scouted on my
then
property.
They go sit out there and see nothing.
Yeah, but look, and by the way, that's actually a really good point. So we tell our landowners, because look, owner-operator, multi-generation ag families are good people. You know, these are handshake people, and they don't want to disappoint, and they don't want to oversell. So we always assure them, like, Landtrust is about experiences, not outcomes. If you're a hunter and you need to go kill a 200-inch deer and you're not going to be happy if you don't do that, go hire an outfitter. Like, that's what they're for, and go get it.
No, I've done that, and they said the same thing. It was just the experience. I'm like, no, I came for the product.
No, yeah.
And I paid the whole fee and didn't get anything.
That's right, and frankly, that's why we're also a lot cheaper. You know, so generally speaking, like, we're going to be a lot cheaper than an outfitter. And we have nothing against outfitters, by the way. Outfitters are service providers. There's great ones, there's terrible ones, and everything in between. And they'll always exist, just like hotels exist. Airbnb is not going to kill hotels. You know, when I travel for work, I want to stay at a hotel. I want to have my room cleaned, and I want to have a restaurant downstairs. Like, I want to have those services. When I travel with my 3 little kids, I want to stay at an Airbnb because they're going to cry, and I want to have them in their own rooms and all that stuff. So I just want to stress to the landowners, this is about experiences. Landtrust customers really are just looking to get out without crowds and experience a property for a few days at a time. You know, that's really what it's about, and have a good time.
How important is the name? I'm going to bring up another name here. So Landtrust, okay? So it basically says we're entrusting in this to rent out our land, if you will. There was another company called cashrent.com, and it didn't go well. It didn't go so well for them, so they rebranded. You know what their name is now? Common Ground. We have Common Ground here, or you've already nailed it, Landtrust. He already just made the deal on the front end, but they realized that you got to have some trust in the name, not just, hey, I'm out for cash rent, because it's not necessarily about the money. It's more on the
that's right,
working on behalf of the landowner.
Yeah, look, of course, money is important. It's a factor, but like I said, when I was talking about it earlier, it is probably the second or third most important thing when building this business. Trust is number one. Control. A landowner needs to control their property rights, their property, their way of life, their business. They got to have trust, both in us as a platform, but also in the guests that we bring to them.
Right.
And then, of course, income. Of course, that's what we're here to do. And
I get the time back and not that awkward conversation knocking on the door.
Right.
Someone literally in the fall, it's every day on the farm. It's 5 or 10 minutes.
Your fall friends?
Yeah, of like
the fall friends.
There's literally public land across the road, and a lot of it.
Yeah.
And they want to hunt private, and it's like I have 4 acres of timber. There's hundreds over there.
I got to tell you, it's one of the benefits that our landowners have really enjoyed is just being able to say, hey, look, we're on Landtrust. Check it out if it's available. Shoot us an inquiry.
Yeah.
So it's an easy way to not have that awkward conversation, and just say, and we have signs too. So it's possible. Just check it out, and if we're open, send us an inquiry. And then they don't have to do that kind of like, I've door knocked a ton too, and we both know what we're there for, and it's you try to have all the pleasantries and all that stuff, and I'm not knocking it. Door knocking still has a place, of course, but.
So do people make, I work with investors, okay, and I'd love to come out to Montana and buy a farm, but it's way crazy expensive. Most of those people, hunting-wise, would like to at least pay the tax bill and get some recreational value, but it's still an investment for the long run. It's just a place to put their money. For the folks that have done that, do they monetize this enough more than maybe renting it out as cattle pasture?
I don't think it's an either or. I think you can do both. And again, hunting is one activity. Of course, it's a high value activity, but fishing is starting to grow on the platform, and just camping, kind of that overlanding movement that's happening right now, and so I don't think it's a stackable thing. I
Okay.
think you could do you can lease grazing and you can be doing other experiences on top of it. Again, all of our properties, almost 100% of them are owner-operator Production Ag properties.
We need
whether
to
it's ranch or
experience
farm.
driving the combine. We'll just rent out an hour in your combine.
No, you're
That
joking,
could
but
get
but
expensive.
but seriously, like riding along, doing a ride along in a combine is seriously a farm experience that you could do.
I'm just thinking you
ride
have
along, not a drive along, ride along.
Ride
No,
along,
pay,
ride
just
along,
like
yeah.
NASCAR though, you pay more money for the driving. part.
Yeah, I'm thinking you set like 80 acres aside, and
And
you
it's
have
just
a
crap.
separate combine that's like, all right, here's like your checklist of how you do it.
Yeah.
And you just go, you get a down and back. Like that's what you get.
Hey, you guys are joking about it, but I'm being serious, man. Like, there's a huge appetite to go and have these experiences. Like I said in the beginning, your daily chores are interesting to people who didn't grow up doing that stuff.
Let's do it on my farm.
You're not even going to combine it.
I will go
Silage.
buy a doggone combine at one of my auctions and just rent it out.
Especially if it's an old one.
You're not even going to have a crop to combine if you chop it all for silage.
Well, then I can make enough to maybe make more than chopping it.
They
for
can come out
silage.
and then they can do a pass tillage.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I would say to any of your landowners, you got unproductive ground, quote, unproductive ground, like that's where we come in. Take those acres that are, so our former CTO, or COO, was the CTO at Bayer Crop Science. So he took Field View to market. And, he came over here a few years ago. He just resigned this last month, which was, it was a very friendly parting. We love him. He still is an advisor to the company. But he told us, he's like, hey, man, I took Field View from 0 to 150 million acres in 26 countries. And all I've done is look at ag data. He's like, when you look at it on average, there's like 12% of ag ground, especially on the farm side, is unproductive. It's neutral or negative ROI for the farmer. Mm-hmm. So you start looking at that as a farmer and say, hey, let's stop farming this negative ROI ground and maybe turn it back into some habitat, and you put recreation on top of it. And you can turn that like negative ROI ground into some of your highest ROI ground you have.
That's right. So if someone's going to drive the combine, do they really care if they see 300 bushels on the yield monitor?
No.
Or they're
They
not
don't know
going to
what it
notice?
is.
Yeah.
No, I would say charge enough that you're getting paid as in zero corn was out there.
Right.
And whatever you get corn-wise is great.
Yeah.
But look, guys, I didn't grow up in that country. I've never, going out and understanding what the harvest is, what you guys are doing, like how this stuff is done. There's a huge desire in our country right now, I think, especially certain parts of our country, to understand where the food comes from, how it's produced, all that stuff. Like, and you start to look at this, like, who's better to talk about ag than the people doing the ag? It's good to have lobby groups and all that kind of stuff, but it'd be better to just to put people directly together with each other. And next time they see that like bullshit Netflix documentary on how farmers are killing the planet, they're like, I don't know, I was at it, Corey's place, and it looked like it was doing pretty good.
Yep.
So
Some of it's, you can be as hands-off as you want, and you guys can deal with it all, but what if it is someone that's a traditional agritourism, they got pumpkins and you pick apples and all that, like, is there someone that needs to be on there quite a bit?
So we don't really do the ticketed stuff, right? So a Landtrust, Landtrust landowners, when they get a booking, it's exclusive access for the duration of the booking, right? So that one group, whether it's me just by myself, or it's me and 5 of my friends for 5 days, and you have lodging, it's not a ticketed event. It's exclusive access for the time. So, maybe in the future we'll do some of that ticketed stuff. And again, nothing against it. It's just a different business.
Right.
This is just exclusive access to a property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does, I know with outfitting it does. That's what I told my high school counselor.
I don't think you said any.
I'm getting there. I told my high school counselor that I want to be an outfitter. She says, that's not even a job. Like, you are
It's
wrong.
definitely a job.
It is
It's
a huge job. Okay, so with that, as an outfitter, if you want like a full curl ram versus an antelope, the price is 110% different. Yep. Do you have properties that are specifically for certain animals that you advertise them or market them as this is bighorn sheep once in a lifetime, et cetera, versus here's an antelope in Havre, Montana? Like, they're dime a dozen.
Yeah, I mean, a dime a dozen to the guys in Havre, Montana. Not to the guy from Iowa. So, antelopes actually, if you have antelope and you're listening.
Speed goats, that's what I call them in Montana.
Stinky.
Some people say pronghorn, some people say antelope. I just say speed goats.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, a property could have multiple packages. So let's just say you have a farm in Iowa. Okay, check out if you go on Landtrust.com, search Iowa, and we have some amazing places down there. Buckboard has huge deer. But he's also got pheasant, and he's got some other stuff listed. So yeah, if you want to go hunt one of his 200-inch plus deer and stay in his, he redid his barn recently, and it's cool. He's built a bar into it and everything. It's going to be like $1,200 for a few days, which is really reasonable if you think about it. If you were go guided for a 200+ inch whitetail in Iowa, like that's a very different story. Pheasant's different. Fishing in a pond for bass and bluegill is different. So yeah, the prices, of course, if you have big whitetail or big elk or whatever, they're going to be a lot more expensive to go chase after than fishing for catfish in the river. Mm-hmm. But it's all based on kind of what you as a landowner want to charge for it.
92 results in Iowa.
Wow.
There you go.
That's good.
$40 a guest for a waterfowl hunt.
There you go.
Yep.
It sounds reasonable, and it also sounds like a revenue opportunity for our listeners, and especially those that are willing to be creative and extend their reach to try and, we call it making your farm sustainable. The more that we can do to make sure that our farm operates again for another year,
it's a business.
Is the best way to go about it. I love that you use the term stackable. It doesn't mean you got to stop farming it. These are just things that you can put on top of it. You can even, if you got cattle grazing, great. If you've got something else going on, that's exactly right. But if our listeners want to take that first step, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I would say just go check out landtrust.com. There's a landowners section of the website. You can call us or text us. There's no AI chatbots here. You're going to call us or text us, and you'll talk to real people, either sitting here or in your local state. We're happy to answer any questions. Again, we don't sell you anything. We're business partners. You own the ground, the asset, and we build the technology and the marketing of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, landtrust.com is a great place to connect with us. You'll see a phone number on there. I should know it by heart at this point, but I know a lot of landowners like to just call us, which we like to because you get to chat. So that phone number, by the way, is 406-709-8450. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We do either, mm-hmm. And we're happy to answer any and all questions for you.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time, especially since you're at an event. I know that we've probably lost our listeners like I've lost Dave and Corey because they're already looking at their next excursion and where they're going to book.
But I got one question, though. I always got the extra question.
Okay.
How do you police it? I'm looking at one right now. It's a shotgun hunt in Iowa. It's $400.
You're already looking at trespassing, aren't you?
No, I'm just saying, like, how I get hunters are pretty reliable people, but there's always some bad apples in the bunch. Like, I paid for 2 guests when I brought 2 more. I brought 4. How do you handle that?
Yeah, look, this is where you strip a lot of the bad stories I heard from landowners as I've built this business is, and you strip it down, it's anonymity, right? Some dude in a white Chevy 2500 drove up and knocked on the door, and I said yes, and they did something bad.
Yeah.
And you as a landowner have no recourse. You're like, I don't know who that person was. When you strip the anonymity away, again, before they can even send you a booking request, we have their IDs, we have their credit cards. When you take someone's ID and credit card, it's a very different ballgame. And they're paying you your price.
Good point.
And, a lot of and then it's ratings. So if you're, a 3-star rated sportsman on Landtrust, you'll probably never get invited to another place. Like, no landowner is going to invite a 3-star rated.
Well, ratings go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
just
right,
like Airbnb.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just like Uber.
Yeah, so after you trash that house in California.
I wonder what my rating is on.
Bad because you challenge the status quo everywhere we go.
I didn't even know.
They didn't let me in the hot tub for 5 minutes after they closed.
Yeah, so you guys are smart enough to tell Dave when you go, Airbnb with him, like, it's my credit card, my rating on the line here. So,
yes. Yes.
Yep.
What do you mean I can't have my bag in here?
What do you mean I can't have my bag in here? Hey, I followed the rules.
I'm going to put this on TikTok.
That's funny.
It made for good content.
Awesome. Well, that's great, Nick. I hope our listeners reach out to you and Landtrust to be able to expand their horizons. Well, again, we thank you for your time. We also thank our listeners and appreciate them tuning in, even if about 30 minutes in they started looking for their next hunting excursion.
That's all right.
It was still well worth the time.
Yeah, I appreciate all you guys. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks again, listeners. Have a good one.